What's up, Comic Book Nation? This is RUSS BURLINGAME. We're live at San Diego Comic-Con 2018 with the cast and creator of Stand Against Evil. This is Dana Gould, Janet Varney, Deborah Baker Jr., and John C. McGinley. First of all, are we going to see you at all this season? Because last time we left off, things were a little bit questionable in terms of anyone else being alive.
Yeah, well, I'm here for the interview, so let's hope so.
It'd be very awkward.
Yeah, it would be really awkward if I was dead. Gotta watch, I guess.
Yeah.
For this show in particular, it's weird because it's horror and it's comedy, but there's a thread of earnestness that runs through it, and these characters have real heart. Is it difficult to thread that needle a little bit?
It's the only way the show would work, because you need that sincerity to sustain the horror and the comedy. And I'll freely say that it wasn't in my original version of the show. It wasn't until John's a real actor, Janet's a real actor, and when we worked with them,
I'm a real actor too.
Yes, but that wasn't what I meant. When I first met with John and Janet, before we had cast any other roles,
Cool, thanks. No problem.
they demanded stuff for their characters to work that sort of forced me to go back and make the show better than it was. And then we cast the role that Deborah Baker Jr. plays, and then I felt the show really came together. But it wasn't until all of those puzzle pieces were in place.
And Nate Mooney, who's not here.
He'll be missed.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like everybody on this show... have you stopped yourselves from getting killed yet, or did I forget one? Because I feel like everybody on the show has died at least once. I meant Deborah, not you, because clearly you've died once.
Dana said he likes to paint himself into a corner, like at the end of the season, with some kind of apocalypse or end of the world. And then the next year he likes to try to figure it out. So that's what he did at the end of season 2. And we just finished season 3, and he did figure it out, and it's...
and
incredible.
then painted ourselves into a bigger corner.
Yeah, it's sort of a tradition. It's a tradition that the last shot, right before you are finished shooting for the season, Dana comes up to you and mutters under his breath, "I sure don't know how I'm getting you out of this one," and then aimlessly wanders away. And you go, "Well, I hope you do. Are we rolling? Okay, let's make a show."
One of my favorite movies is Beneath the Planet of the Apes, which ends with the world ending. And then the next year there was a sequel. So
Yeah.
I admire the cleverness.
There's always a way.
Yeah,
Nature finds a way, you might say.
Nature finds a way.
Yeah.
The magic of this had always been a little bit understated, and then time travel came into it, and everything got really wacky. Is it hard as performers to ground the world as it gets bigger and bigger and bigger?
Not for me, just because my character stays very grounded, even in the most ridiculous of circumstances. So, in a weird way, I always feel like I sort of feel like I've just had a hard day's work, even if it means that, there are puppets near my face.
Yeah.
It's still, there's that Evie is just very kind of like grim and determined, like, okay, we got to deal with this.
I know you think it's been wacky.
It's
but
about to
you
get
haven't
wacky.
seen the third season.
Yeah.
Is we kind of upped the wacky game.
In a great way.
Yeah,
The best way ever.
Yeah.
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 I think that I think the first season's great. I think the second season's better than the first season. I think the third season's better than the second season. And I think in the fourth one, we're really going to bottom out.
Great.
That's the plan.
That's the goal. That's the goal.
Do you guys think that being both on IFC and having shorter seasons lends itself to being able to be this kind of insanely creative because you're not servicing 24-hour-long episodes?
I can say from my point of view, it does. Yeah, it allows you. The show is a half hour, and it could be an hour. It would be a very different show, and there's the amount of craziness and sincerity and horror that we have. Your suspension of disbelief is not going to get you to an hour with that height. And that's why I'm not comparing us to the show in any way. But it's why the Twilight Zone works. And the fourth season of the Twilight Zone was an hour long, and it didn't really work. And then it went back to a half hour for the fifth season. And I think the show is exactly what it should be.
Dana Gould says show was exactly like Twilight Zone.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Well, and they're rebooting Twilight Zone, so
Yeah.
We'll just get you guys all cast in it.
Which raises the
Great.
question, why?
I'm excited to see what they do with it, but
Me too.
It's like when someone covers a Beatles song. Like, oh, maybe they'll perfect it.
See, as a Springsteen person, my kid watches Cars 3, and I feel that pain intensely. Because they have Glory Days on all the time, and it's not good. Anyway, reeling it back in a little bit. John, I'm sure you've been asked this question a bunch of times, but...
If it's a Dr. Cox question, ask Dana.
he loves them.
Well, you've got a very distinct means of delivery, and you did see it in Scrubs, but you've seen it pretty much everywhere that you've played. Because it's so different from other actors, how do you kind of modulate it so that it's different for you every time?
I'm all about breaking down the text and then putting it back together and seeing if it makes sense for me, and then I go from there. I'm always been a slave to the writer, always, whether it's Dana or David Mamet or Oliver Stone or Billy Lawrence. I hew to their course. It makes it much easier if you absolutely honor and respect what the guy put on the page or what the woman put on the page. That's the only way I can make sense out of it.
Now, for you guys, is it fun kind of in this heightened world to be able to bounce off of, because each one of your characters is so wildly different. Like you said, you're almost kind of a straight man character, and then you're outlandish, and he's just disgruntled. So it feels like at any given time you can put the two people together and create one dynamic and add the third person, and it's an entirely different scene.
Absolutely.
Sure. I think we all paint with a very bright color, and all those colors really work well together.
That's right.
I'm a painter, so that's how I like to talk.
It's also true.
Yeah.
But that's the other thing, is that even the characters are so different, but we all get to say really funny things, whether or not they're way out there, or they're just like sort of terse, or it's a back and forth with Johnny and me, where it has that sort of screwball comedy feeling, where it's very tight and very quick, or it's Deb improvising something at the end of the scene that ends up being the funniest thing in the scene. I mean, there's just there's stuff for all of us to dig into.
Yeah, and 9 times out of 10, what Janet said is 9 times out of 10, the funniest thing in the scene is the thing you come up with. Unfortunately, all of these people are gifted, and they know their characters really well. And you film it once, and you kind of get it, and then you let people play around a little bit, and it's 100% of the time the funniest thing is the thing that comes at the end that you throw in there.
Yeah, but it has to be really funny to get us comfortable enough to play. On the page, it's always brilliant. I think otherwise we would all feel like afraid. Like, how are we going to make this good? It's already there.
Yeah.
Right.
And then we get to maybe play a little bit.
Yeah. It's a different discipline when you show up on sets and it's an exercise in pulling a rabbit out of your ass. Because there's Robin Williams and then there's Jim Carrey, and they can do that on the fly. And otherwise, it sure helps if you're at least 70% of the way there or 80% of the way there, because somebody put some really wonderful words on the page. Otherwise, actors tend to fall into bad habits, pulling a rabbit out of a hat, and you get really bad habits.
Yeah, that's true. And this season was directed by a guy named Rob Cohen, who is a really close old friend of mine. We've worked together a lot, and we have a great shorthand. And Rob has a real comic sensibility, and it was like having another writer on set for free. It was he would always come in with a brilliant little twist at the end, and he's a very valuable to have on set.
All right, well, thanks very much, guys. I really appreciate your time.
Sure, thanks, Russ.
For more about Stand Against Evil and for more from San Diego Comic-Con, keep your eyes on Comicbook.com.